Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to live coverage of tonight's State of the Commonwealth message. We're here at the state capitol in Richmond, and you're watching our live coverage on WCVE Public Television out of Richmond and WHTJ Public Television from Charlottesville. This will be the first State of the Commonwealth message to be delivered by Governor Terry McAuliffe. He'll be speaking to a joint meeting of the Senate of Virginia and the Virginia House of Delegates. Following his address, we'll take a brief pause and then we'll hear a Republican response, the opposition party response to the governor's address. All that coming up in the next hour here on this public television station. We thank you for joining us. We understand that the governor will be addressing issues including ethics reform and working to close the budget shortfall and education reform. We'll be looking forward to seeing what response he gets from the Republican-controlled legislature and from the opposition party response, which will come at the midway point in tonight's broadcast. So stay tuned. In just a couple of moments, you'll hear the governor announced before the joint session of the legislature, and we hope you enjoy tonight's broadcast here on our station.
Mr. President, His Excellency, the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Thank you, everybody. Lieutenant Governor Northam, Speaker Howell, Chairman Stosh, men and women of the General Assembly, distinguished guests, people of Virginia, thank you for inviting me here tonight. And I want to especially thank the First Lady of Virginia, my wife, Dorothy McAuliffe, who is actually here with us tonight. I especially want to thank Dorothy for her compassion, her energy, her commitment to making sure that not one single child in Virginia sits in a classroom too hungry to learn. Thank you, Dorothy. I'll be here for a while tonight. And finally, I want to thank my cabinet and the thousands of Virginia employees that they represent for the hard work and dedication to making sure this Commonwealth a world-class place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you, Cabinet, for all the great work that you do. Folks, just 1 year ago, I stood at this very desk and shared my vision for a stronger, more independent Virginia economy. In that speech, I expressed optimism that we in this chamber could find common ground and advance the causes that Virginians care most about: job creation, economic development, education, and health care. 1 year later, I am proud to say that that optimism was well-founded. I want to first thank Chairman Jones, Stosh, and Colgan for working with me in a bipartisan fashion to balance our budget responsibly. Thank you, gentlemen. We also worked with a bipartisan coalition to reform the standards of learning. We took the first step in reforming workforce development, and we began tackling the challenges that we face in our mental health system. And Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for working with me and my team to make our transportation planning process more about economic good than political maneuvering. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We built on our Commonwealth's world-class business environment, helping more businesses expand here in Virginia and bringing new companies here to create jobs and to grow and create new ones for every part of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Those efforts, I am proud to say, are paying off. In the year that we have been working together, I am proud to announce that Virginia has closed 267 economic development deals, resulting in $5.58 billion in capital investment, which is more than twice any administration has done in their first year in office in Virginia history. As you know, creating new jobs and building a stronger and more diverse Virginia economy has been the primary focus of my time in office. I am proud of the success that we have had winning individual projects like the 2,000 jobs that we are bringing to Chesterfield County with Tranlin Paper Company, or the Unitow Pharmaceutical Project, which will create 376 new jobs by keeping a plant in Petersburg open that was closing and adding 100 more jobs that were slated to be lost if that plant had closed. And I want to thank the representatives from Tranlin who traveled here and Unitow Pharmaceuticals for joining us this evening and for your continued partnership with our great Commonwealth. If they could stand and give them a round of applause. Now, I'm appreciative, but I got one more request Now let's bring your corporate headquarters to Virginia as well. I was proud to help close the first economic development deal in Appomattox in more than 12 years, and the largest deal that they've done in over 44 years. We brought a Chinese company back that took over a shuttered plant. We have reopened that plant with millions of dollars of new investment. And guess what? We are now manufacturing in that plant pollution control devices that will be manufactured now in Virginia, shipped to our port, and those manufactured products are now going to be sold back to China, folks. That is a new Virginia economy. Last year, I stood in this chamber and announced my goal to make Virginia the East Coast capital for agriculture and forestry exports. That wasn't empty rhetoric. We got right to work. I've hosted over 20 ambassadors to the governor's mansion to discuss new trade opportunities for Virginia. We've traveled the globe selling Virginia agriculture products. Everything from apples to wine to soybeans to peanuts. I have even eaten my fair share of fried cicadas and chicken paws. Folks, I will eat anything if that brings an investment to the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I am so pleased to announce that our efforts are paying off. For the first time in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia, agriculture and forestry exports, for the first time ever last year, exceeded over $3 billion in exports. We outcompeted 200 cities across the nation to bring Stone Brewery to Virginia, and we beat out Mexico for the Continental Automotive's major expansion in Newport News. And I was just there the other day and announced another $100 million investment from Canon in Newport News. As you may all know by now, I love my job. Attracting new business investment to Virginia is an essential part of being governor, and we are having unprecedented success. But if we're going to continue our momentum, we must invest in smart incentive funds like the Governor's Opportunity Fund and the Agriculture and Forestry Industries Development Fund. These tools make Virginia competitive in a global economy, and they provide a real return on investment, both in terms of economic activity and revenue to our budget. For every dollar that we invest in the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, we receive $9 back in budget revenue in return. Folks, this is simply too good of a deal for our taxpayers. In this session, I look forward to working with you in a bipartisan way to preserve and expand these important investments for Virginia. Given that virtually all of the current Governor's Opportunity Fund balance is obligated to future projects, it is my hope that we can work together to preserve these investments and continue to reap the benefits that they bring to Virginia's families. I am also proposing legislation to strengthen management and oversight of the Virginia Tobacco Indemnification Fund so that we can maximize return on investment and preserve this important driver of economic development in the tobacco region for many, many years to come. As we work to attract new business today, we also have a responsibility and an opportunity to lay a real foundation for economic growth well into the future. When I talk about building a new Virginia economy, That is exactly what I mean. Establishing the economic infrastructure it will take to outcompete 49 other states and 200 nations around the globe, even in the face of damaging defense cuts and economic headwinds. When I presented my budget proposal to you last month, I spoke of the impact our sluggish economy has had on our state revenues. Virtually all of that drag has been created by federal policy decisions, the most damaging of which, as we know, is sequestration. Automatic federal budget cuts reduced military contracts in Virginia by $9.8 billion between 2011, 12, and 13. And according to a George Mason University study, they threaten to eliminate 154,000 jobs in the Commonwealth, which is about 4% of our workforce. And if Congress does not act by October 1st, we could be looking at around another $50 billion in additional cuts nationwide. That would have a disproportionate effect on our economy, particularly in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. Even in the face of these cuts, our close relationship with the Department of Defense and the federal government will continue. And I intend to continue fighting for every single dollar that we can get. I was proud to work with Senators Warner and Kane and our congressional delegation to help fight off an effort to decommission the USS George Washington aircraft carrier. Had that happened, we would have lost thousands and thousands of jobs here in the Commonwealth. I was similarly thrilled to help convince the United States State Department and the General Services Administration to choose our own Fort Pickett as the new home of the Foreign Affairs Security Training Center, which will bring as many as 500 new jobs and millions of dollars of investment with it. Federal spending will continue to be an asset to our economy. But there is no question that the foolish sequestration policy born out of a dysfunctional Congress is doing real harm and damage to our economy and to many Virginians' quality of life. What remains to be seen is how we respond to this new reality, that the days when Virginia could simply rely on federal spending to buoy our economy in both good times and bad are over. If we are going to preserve Virginia's position as a global economic leader, we must open up new avenues for growth that are not dependent on federal government spending. We must grow, we must strengthen, and we must diversify. To sum it up, we must build a new Virginia economy. Folks, this is our time. If you look at the policy actions that my administration has taken and the proposals that I have sent before the General Assembly this year, you will find that every one of them comes back to creating new economic opportunity for all Virginians. I know many of you will agree that the first step that we must take to achieve that goal is to develop a world-class workforce and innovative program so that our employers can get the employees they need for a 21st century economy. We know that Virginia is home to the best workers on the planet. We owe them a workforce development system that prepares them for economic success from infancy all the way through adulthood. Most of you in this room have heard me say this many times. We have employers across Virginia today that have thousands of high-tech jobs available, but they cannot find trained workers to fill them. If we're going to keep these companies in Virginia and bring in new ones, we must build a world-class workforce system that better aligns our training programs with the needs of our employers. This session, I am introducing a bipartisan workforce development package that increases state funding for workforce programs, devotes greater state attention to apprenticeships and training in much-needed areas, and increases accountability and transparency for the millions of taxpayer dollars spent on a broken system that we have today. By streamlining our efforts and reducing redundancies, we can get students the skills that they need to succeed while being better stewards of taxpayer dollars. And there is no question that building a healthy Virginia economy requires giving every Virginia veteran the opportunity to live a meaningful and productive life here in Virginia. I am proud of the work that my administration is doing, encouraging companies to hire veterans, particularly through the Virginia Values Veterans Program. In just over 2 years, the V3 program, 234 member companies have hired nearly 7,000 veterans. And let me say this, one of them is here with us tonight. As Travis Johnson ended his distinguished 12-year career as service as a Marine sniper, he found himself struggling to translate the unique skills that he developed in the military into a successful civilian career. Fortunately, Systems Technology Forum, a V3 certified company, met Travis and recognized his enormous contribution that he could make to their company, despite the lack of formal professional training. Travis is now working hard at STF and getting further training so that he can advance in his career. And after hiring 41 veterans in their first year with the V3 program, STF has committed to me today that they are going to hire 20 more veterans this year. So, Travis, thank you. Thank you. Travis, thank you for your service to our Commonwealth. Thank you for your service to our nation. I would add that my son is graduating from the Naval Academy this year, and he just chose the Marines, so I'm hoping you can give him some good advice. Folks, this session, I am proposing to further enhance the V3 program by offering a performance grant, which will recognize employers who meet goals for hiring, compensating, and retaining veterans. Additionally, we should ease the transition from military to civilian life by passing legislation requiring the Virginia Community College system to award greater credit for the skills and training veterans receive during their time in military service. These men and women have served and sacrificed for us. So let's work together to get them the skills, training, and economic opportunity that they deserve. As we improve our workforce development system, we cannot forget that our economic future runs through public school classrooms across this great Commonwealth. That is why my budget contains no program cuts to K through 12 education. no additional cuts to higher education. Public education is the backbone of a healthy economy. So let us pledge tonight to avoid acrimony on this topic and agree that we will not cut a single dollar from schools during this legislative session. If we are going to lead in a global economy, we cannot wait until our students reach kindergarten to begin preparing them for success. Last year, as you know, I formed the first ever Children's Cabinet, as well as the Commonwealth's Council on Childhood Success, and I asked them, let's take a 360-degree approach to increasing economic opportunity for Virginia students from before birth all the way through adulthood, and we are already making great progress. I was proud to work with the United States Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, to help secure a $17.5 million grant just last month to expand our preschool program so that another 1,600 at-risk 4-year-olds can now learn in a pre-K classroom in their community. We will put every federal dollar that we can get to work, preparing our students to succeed. But it's equally important that we make pragmatic use of the money that we already have. So I have introduced budget language that will allow communities that have exceeded their pre-K budgets to receive leftover funds not used in other divisions so that they can offer more children the great start that their education that they deserve. I am also proposing legislation to keep our children safe by increasing the number of daycare facilities across Virginia that are licensed and properly inspected by the state and local governments. Just as some students need a little extra encouragement, sometimes entire schools sometimes need additional support. I've included funding in my budget to help train principals in areas with underperforming schools so that they can steer their teachers and students toward greater academic success. As a key element of increasing student achievement, we need to make sure that every child in the Commonwealth of Virginia has access to quality nutrition. Early last year, Dorothy and I met with the United States Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, who informed the two of us that Virginia was leaving millions and millions of our federal dollars on the table that could be going to feed hungry children at school. The First Lady has put this issue front and center, and we are already seeing spectacular results. I am proud to say that already that 89 Virginia public schools have already enrolled in a brand new school nutrition initiative, which enables qualifying high-need schools to serve every student breakfast and lunch at no cost to the students. Dorothy has also worked to increase Virginia's participation in summer school nutrition programs. This is a great start, folks, but we still have much work to do. My budget plan includes funding to help schools expand their breakfast programs so that every Virginia student can start his or her day ready to learn. Once again, Dorothy, Thank you for your leadership on this important issue. I have also included an additional $2.5 million in financial aid to help more young people realize the dream of a college education. That dream is a key step forward, economic success for people all across the Commonwealth. We should extend it to every single student who works for it, including Virginians whose parents brought them to this country when they were children. So I hope you'll act this session and let Virginia lead the way and pass the Virginia Dream Act, and I will sign it into law. My budget proposal makes key investments in Virginia's research and technology infrastructure. I have included $4.2 million so that we can compete for the new ion electron collider at the Jefferson Lab in Newport News. That new $618 million facility would create more than 4,900 jobs within a decade and add $708 million to the Commonwealth's economy. It will also make Virginia a world leader in high-energy physics. And folks, let me be clear. Our sole competition for the ion collider is the state of New York, and we simply cannot let those New Yorkers come down to Virginia and take our projects from us. I knew I'd get you going here, folks. It just took a minute. I knew it just took a little bit of time there. That was pretty good. And in full disclosure, I came up with that one myself, believe it or not. Since the start of my administration, improving Virginia's state cybersecurity infrastructure, as you know, has been a top priority. This is one of the few areas where the federal government will be making major investments in the coming years, and we have an opportunity here in Virginia to lead. Soon after taking office, I launched the Virginia Cybersecurity Commission, chaired by Richard Clark, as you know, who has advised 3 presidents on national security and counterterrorism issues. Their continued work and diligence, coupled with the vast array of cyber assets that we already have in the Commonwealth, puts us in a very strong position to win the new proposed federal cyber campus. I am also working very hard to make Virginia a leader in bioscience. We just convened Virginia's first bioscience summit with all of our state universities I invited to come together, and I invited down Dr. Bob Langer, the world-renowned expert from MIT with over 1,100 patents, to help us better leverage our great academic and private sector assets to compete in this emerging industry. Folks, if we work together, starting today, we can succeed where others have failed before. We can untangle the web of our workforce development system so that it works for students, businesses, and for our economy. We can connect qualified workers like our veterans with the skills and training they need for the jobs of today and to help us create those jobs of tomorrow. And we can make sure that every step of a child's development puts her on a pathway to economic success. In a new Virginia economy, we will also create opportunity for those who have made mistakes and have paid their debt to society. Virginians like James Ray, a Vietnam veteran who returned from the Gulf of Tonkin and the Vietnam Wars, he told me, a different man. He came back a changed man from when he went. James made mistakes in his life, but you know what? He did his time, and he reformed his life. James deserved a second chance to be a productive member of our society. And I was honored personally the other day to restore his rights and to be part of what he called the greatest day of his life. I have made restoration of civil and voting rights of former offenders a central focus of my administration. And I'm proud to stand here today, and in just 1 year, we have restored the rights of over 5,200 former offenders, and that is more than any governor has done in their first year in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia. As we work to build a new Virginia economy in which every person can get the skills, training, and opportunities that they need, we must also ensure that no Virginian goes without access to quality, affordable health care. People who can see a doctor when they are sick without incurring devastating costs can realize their full economic potential. But people without coverage are one illness or one accident away from economic ruin. If we're going to build a new Virginia economy, we must get those hard-working men and women the care and health care that they deserve. And the truth is, we've already paid for it. With one vote this session, we can get health care for 400,000 of our fellow Virginians, create up to 30,000 new jobs, and save our current budget $105 million. With one vote, we can ensure that hospitals across the Commonwealth can stay open and eliminate a key barrier to economic success for so many thousands of our friends and neighbors. And with one vote, we can show the world, as we always have, that Virginia is a place where public good comes ahead of partisan politics. So let us come together, let's come together at the table and take that important vote this legislative session. As we continue this important discussion, I will continue to implement my health care plan, A Healthy Virginia. Just today, just in the last few hours, we learned that more than 298,000 Virginians have already signed up for the new health insurance on the federal marketplace during just the first month of open enrollment. Many of the people who have signed up so far are newcomers to the marketplace, but many others are just renewing their plans that they purchased last year. I met one of them last month in Roanoke. Cara Joy started her own business, a hair salon, 4.5 years ago. And as she told me, it was a real struggle. And it was a real struggle for her to afford health care. She had a plan, but it was limited and it was expensive. Last year, she got help signing up for a better plan through the federal marketplace that is more affordable and offers prescription drug coverage for which her previous plan did not offer. Cara is just one reminder that a healthy economy needs healthy citizens, and I am glad that Cara was able to join us here tonight, and congratulations and good luck in your business, Cara. Last month, we took another step forward in implementing a Healthy Virginia when we won a $2.6 million federal grant to pursue health care delivery innovations that will result in better care and lower costs for Virginians. And just this past week, the governor's access plan began processing applications, ensuring that up to 20,000 Virginians with serious mental illness can get medical and behavioral care that they need to lead healthy and productive lives that they deserve. Mr. Speaker, and men and women of this General Assembly, a Healthy Virginia is no substitute for Medicaid expansion, but it is creating real opportunities for thousands of Virginians who desperately need it. I'll be honest, I cannot think of a better investment than that. As we strengthen our human capital by improving workforce training and access to health care, we must also enhance the infrastructure upon which our economy is built: transportation, energy generation and transmission, ports, airports. These are the building blocks of our commerce system, and a new Virginia economy, they will be the envy of the world. Thanks to the leadership of many of you who are here today in this room, we have made great progress funding transportation maintenance and construction. But there is more that we must do in order to build the infrastructure that we need to drive our economy into the future. Increasing Virginians' access to rail and other forms of public transportation is a key element of easing congestion and expanding economic opportunity. Yesterday, Chairman Chris Jones and I announced a compromise legislation plan that will provide local governments with more access to transportation funds and pump much-needed dollars into rail and transit projects so that we can expand our transportation infrastructure without raising taxes. Thank you, sir. Another challenge we must tackle together is reforming our public-private partnership program. P3s are a vital tool for Virginia's transportation network. But as we learned, after we wasted $300 million and we're still counting, on Route 460, a road that not a single shovel had been put in the ground, nor had a permit even been requested to build that road. So, our P3 program is open to mismanagement and abuse. And I stopped all funding on Route 460, and I will stop every project that wastes our Virginia taxpayer dollars. So this year we are offering a set of common sense, bipartisan reforms that will improve the program's transparency, minimize taxpayer risk, and ensure greater accountability. The Port of Virginia is one of our greatest economic assets. It is our gateway to the world of international commerce. This year, the port has seen record-breaking growth in the number of shipping containers that move through that facility. And thanks to the leadership of the new board and the new executive director, we are making great progress. But when I stood here a year ago, I was disappointed because our port was losing millions of dollars. And I had to discover that the port for years had not even been meeting their debt covenants. Those days are over. So we are looking at everything that we possibly can do to make sure we're protecting our core economic assets of this great Commonwealth in order for us to grow. The energy sector in Virginia holds tremendous potential for economic growth and development, but the potential will be unfulfilled if we are complacent. This session, we will advocate for legislation to increase the diversity of our fuel mix through increased utilization of zero carbon emitting sources such as solar, wind, and nuclear. These growing techniques and technologies will not only help Virginia create new jobs, they will also reduce our emissions as we work to mitigate the impacts of global warming. We will work to increase renewable development through public-private partnerships by creating the Virginia Solar Development Authority. And we will introduce legislation to create an Energy Economic Development Fund to provide Virginia with yet another tool to attract new, large, job-creating businesses and help our existing businesses grow. Workforce development, education, healthcare, and economic infrastructure are essential ingredients to a strong economy. But so is giving businesses the confidence that this Commonwealth is home to transparent and accountable government. I want to applaud both chambers of this General Assembly for returning to Richmond with a seriousness of purpose that reforming our ethics laws demands. On my first day in office, I honored a campaign pledge that I put a $100 cap of gifts on myself, my family, my administration, and their families. And I am confident that by the time we adjourn, we will have made a $100 cap on all gifts, the standard for all Virginia public officials. With that gift cap, we should also establish a bipartisan ethics review commission with real investigative powers to offer guidance on the law and to identify and sanction those who may violate it. I also hope you will pass my proposal to prohibit fundraising activity both in regular and special sessions. Right now, the only thing that makes special sessions special is that we can still raise money. This session, we can work to erase that inconsistency from our ethics laws. Additionally, this session is our opportunity to adopt the common sense position that people who sit on boards and commissions should be prohibited from voting on matters that benefit their family members, themselves, or their business partners. If we pass these common sense measures, we can restore Virginia's trust and reestablish our reputation for well-run government that puts results first. We should also act this session to reassure families that we serve that we are doing everything we possibly can to keep them safe. We can no longer stand by as our fellow Virginians are lost to preventable and senseless acts of gun violence. As a gun owner myself, I fully believe that law-abiding citizens have a right to responsibly own and carry firearms. But as we have learned far too many times, with far too many tragedies here and across the country, there is a difference between responsible gun owners and those who violate the law or are likely to use firearms in a manner that endangers lives. I have proposed several common sense restrictions for Virginians to keep them safe without infringing on the right of responsible, law-abiding citizens. If we work together this session, these proposals will keep guns out of dangerous hands by closing the gun show loophole, by preventing violent criminals and domestic abusers from obtaining the firearms, and revoking concealed carry permits from those who do not meet their legal obligation to pay child support. And curtailing gun trafficking by restoring the one handgun a month law that we had here in Virginia. Even one Virginian's precious life is too high a price to pay for our inability to reach a reasonable compromise on gun safety. Before I move on, I want to recognize someone special. His name is Colin Goddard. He is here with us tonight. Colin Goddard is a survivor of the 2007 shooting at Virginia Tech in which 32 students were killed with faculty members. Colin Goddard was shot 4 times. That young man still has 3 bullets in his body. And I want to thank him for coming here tonight and standing by our side every step of the way to make Virginia a safe place for our families. And as we work to rid our communities from gun violence, we must do right by the people who are on the front lines every single day, keeping our families safe. You've all heard me talk about this before. I find it appalling that sheriff deputies who risk their lives to protect Virginians often earn so little that they qualify for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. As a candidate for governor, I pledge to raise deputies' pay, and I'm proud now to stand here as governor to honor that commitment to raise the pay so that the average starting pay salary for our Virginia Sheriff's deputies is no longer so low that these brave young men and women qualify for food stamps. And I want to thank Sheriff Arthur Townsend and Deputy Sheriff Alex Madison from Lunenburg County for joining here tonight, for helping me with this legislation, and more importantly, for representing every man and woman who puts on a law enforcement uniform and keeps Virginia safe. Thank you. In a new Virginia, every person will have an equal right to succeed, regardless of his or her race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation. And I am proud to report that this has been a great year for equality for many Virginians. The Supreme Court's decision to legalize same-sex marriage in Virginia and many other states means that decisions about marriage are now left to loving adults instead of their government. I was honored to take executive actions bringing Virginia government in line with the decision, including allowing same-sex couples to provide a loving adoptive home for a child who needs it. This session, we have an opportunity to update the remainder of the Code of Virginia to reflect this historic decision. And in doing so, we can send a message to the more than 90% of Fortune 500 companies that protect their employees from discrimination that Virginia is a place where equality and prosperity come before outdated culture battles. Ours is a commonwealth that gave birth to a nation founded on the values of equal and individual rights. We make Virginia stronger when we work together to expand these rights, not restrict them. During the campaign, I promised to be a brick wall against any legislation that would erode women's access to quality health care. And I am proud to stand here 1 year later and say that not one single woman's health clinic has closed in the Commonwealth since I took the oath of office. I have asked the Board of Health to revisit the onerous regulations that were threatening to shut down clinics that provide essential services like cancer screening and regular checkups. And I told them, take the politics out of the regulatory process and focus on safety and science and the reality of a woman's constitutional right to make her own health care decisions with her own doctor. In a new Virginia economy, everyone will receive equal pay for equal work regardless of their gender. Today, a woman in Virginia makes just 79 cents for every dollar a man makes. Folks, this is unacceptable, and it's hurting our communities, and it's hurting our economy. So this session, I am introducing legislation that will increase the penalties for companies that fail to pay every worker equally for the hard work that they do. And as we rid our Commonwealth of pay disparities that hurt our economy, we will also send a message to the world that Virginia is a leader in keeping our residents safe from the threat of sexual and domestic violence. Earlier this year, I created a task force to combat sexual violence on our college campuses, chaired by our Attorney General, Mark Herring, to develop a broad-based approach to deal with this very important issue. They are already doing great work and will deliver recommendations to me by June. But there are several common steps that we can all take together now to make our communities safer. I am proposing that the State Council of Higher Education for Virginia develop a unified sexual misconduct policy for all of Virginia's public colleges and universities by July 31st of this year. And I'm also proposing that Virginia public colleges and universities place a notation on academic transcripts in cases where a student is dismissed from that institution for violation of the school's sexual misconduct policy, student code of conduct, or the university's honor code. I know these are difficult and challenging issues, but I know if we work together, we can make our schools and our communities safer. I would be remiss if I did not mention our hardworking state employees who wake up every single day determined to make Virginia a better state in which to live. They deserve our thanks for their hard work and dedication under often sometimes challenging circumstances. But in addition to our gratitude, let's be clear, our state employees deserve a raise. As you know, last year, I included a 2% pay raise in my budget proposal, which I paid for with the savings from closing the coverage gap. I was disappointed to see that removed from the final budget. While our revenue picture prevented me from including a raise in the budget I submitted last December, I know that many of you in this chamber would like to see our final compromise include a raise for our state employees. Let me be clear, I am open to that idea. If you come to me with a plan to raise state employee pay, I will give it the consideration that it is due, as long as it does not cut education, health care, or other essential services. As we begin our second legislative session together, I am proud to look back on all that we have achieved over the last 12 months. New jobs and tremendous investment in our economy, a responsibly balanced budget, smart reforms to our school testing and transportation prioritization process, a stronger mental health system, greater equality of opportunity all across the Commonwealth. We have made great progress together, but serious challenges remain. I have every confidence that we can meet them, but only if we work together and only if we start today. The vision that I have shared with you tonight does not originate from a place of confrontation or partisanship. It's about job creation. It originates from a place that I know all of you share, that we want to put Virginia on the path towards sustained long-term growth so that Dorothy and my 5 children and all of your children and every child in the Commonwealth can have those same opportunities to succeed that we've had. And so, as the committee meetings and hearings begin and the bills start to fly, I want to thank each and every member of the General Assembly for your leadership, your service to Virginia, and the genuine kindness and respect that you have extended to my family and me over this past year. If that bipartisan spirit continues to guide our work together, I know that we will emerge 45 days from now with a budget that closes our revenue shortfall and invests in key priorities for growth. I know we will have revitalized the Commonwealth's approach to human capital development so that every child has an equal shot at economic success. And I know we will have continued the work of improving and expanding our economic infrastructure so that we can create those jobs of the 21st century. I know we will have taken action to make Virginia safer, more equal, more welcoming to people from all walks of life. And with every step that we take together, I know that we will move boldly toward that new Virginia economy that our families deserve. My friends, this is a moment for history, and I am honored to share it with you. May God bless you, and may God bless the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you.